ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here tonight. A real thrill to be here amongst all you wonderful people. They say in our profession, ladies and gentlemen, they say in our profession there are certain types of venue you'll only ever play twice in your career. You'll play them once when you're on your way up, and you'll play them once when you're on your way back down again. So it's great to be back. It's a pleasure to be here at this wonderful Lowry Hotel. Mind you, having said that, I've already upset the bar staff. I didn't know. I went up to the barman. I said, I'd like a double brandy, please. He poured it out. I downed it in one. I said, strictly speaking, with what I've got, I shouldn't be drinking that. He said, what you got? I said, 25 pence. Never mind. I was at the bar. There were two Irishmen talking at the bar. And one said to the other, he said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Dublin. He had a funny accent. He said, I'm from Dublin. He said, I'm from Dublin. Which street? He said, O'Connell Street. He said, I'm from O'Connell Street. Which school did you go to? He said, St Mary the Divine. He said, I went to St Mary the Divine. Which year did you leave? He said, October 74. He said, I left in October 74. Barman turned to me, he said, I see the Murphy twins are pissed again. I'm going to, don't spoil me too early. Don't spoil me. It's great to be back in Manchester, ladies and gentlemen. I got here much earlier today, and I do love Manchester, so I thought I'd do a bit of shopping. I'm into my DIY, you know. So I went up to a Mancunian, I said, excuse me, mate, is there a B&Q in Manchester? He said, no, there's an M-A-N-C... Some things never change. I'm gonna shock you now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna shock you and no doubt upset a few of you. I wasn't the first choice to be here tonight. Well, they wanted someone with a bit more profile, you know, so they asked all the usual lovelies who get all the work, Jonathan Ross, Davina McCall, Chris Tarrant, Noel Edmonds, the Crankies. But they all proved to be a bit too pricey, so they drew up a sort of second no-frills list that consisted of me, Cheggers, and any two of the Nolan sisters. And I got the gig on condition that I half my fee and finished with a few bars of I'm in the mood for dancing. So stand by. Just been reading the... oh, and also they were going to get another EastEnder here tonight, as you might know her from... Does anyone watch EastEnders? Yeah. Do you all know her? No? Pat Butcher. Yeah. Or she's otherwise known, Pat Evans. Yeah. Or before that she was Pat Beale. Yeah. Before that she was Pat Wicks. Before that she was Pat Harris. She's been around. But as we know and love her now, ladies and gentlemen, Fat Pat. She was going to be here tonight, but a terrible thing happened last night. She was shopping in Oxford Street, and her pager went off, and everybody thought she was reversing. So there was a mass stampede with 36 people injured, so she couldn't be here tonight. Just been reading the old papers today. It's all about football at the moment. Anyone watching the match tomorrow? Good result tonight, Rick? Don't cry for me, Argentina. There you go. See you later. The news for tomorrow is Wayne Rooney will only play if he has a cortisone injection. David Beckham's furious because he wants a new car as well. Who remembers the 1990 World Cup when those three great opera singers got together to sing on the eve of the final? Do you remember that? Carreras, Domingo, Pavarotti, it was wonderful. Well, the good news is they're going to reform for this year's final in 2006. They're going to do a gig with Dale Winton. It's going to be called the Three Tenors and a 9-bob note. Also reading the paper today, tragically, bird flu has claimed its first human victim in this country. What happened was the guy went to the doctor and he said, doctor, give it to me straight, what's my blood results? He said, the doctor said, I'm afraid you've got H5N1. He said, what is that? He said, bird flu. He said, I don't believe it. He said, I'm afraid you've got H5N1. He said, go home and I'll phone you when we know what we're going to do with you. So he went home and he was crying. His wife said, what's the matter? He said, I've been to the doctor, I've got H5N1. She said, never mind, love, come to the bingo, take your mind off it. So they went to the bingo. This guy couldn't do any wrong. He won the top line, the bottom line, he won the full house, he won the £50,000 national link up. The bingo hall manager went up to him, he said, you're a lucky bastard, aren't you? The guy said, lucky? Lucky? I got H5N1. He said, fuck me, he's won the raffle as well. He said, I don't believe it. This boy and girl met in a bar, had a few drinks, things led to one another as they do. They went back to the girl's flat, had another couple of drinks, ended up in her bedroom. The guy took off his shirt, went in the toilet, washed his hands, come back out, took his trousers off, went in the toilet, washed his hands, come back out, took his underpants off, went in the toilet, washed his hands. She said, you're a dentist, aren't you? He said, how did you know that? She said, well, you're very hygienic, you always wash your hands. He said, that's very observant of you. Anyway, one thing led to another, they made love. Afterwards, she said, you're a very good dentist, aren't you? He said, yes, I am. How did you know that? She said, I never felt a thing. She said, hey. Anybody notice anything different, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, I've had a trim. It's really good. No, I did. I had a hair transplant. It's a middle-aged midlife crisis. What it was, I suffer from MPB, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's called male pattern baldness. It's where you get a horseshoe shape on top of your head there where no hair grows. When you get more than you'll ever conceivably need. Here, and under there. It was never a problem until, well, you know, remember when they drew up the list for the new James Bond? I didn't get a sniff. Wasn't even on the short list, so I thought, what's wrong? I looked in the mirror, in the toilet, I had more hair in my ears than on my head. You ever tried doing a comb over from your ears? You know how difficult it is. So I did, I had a hair transplant where they cut the back of your head open and they put all the healthy follicles into the top of your head. 2,000 holes then, mate. But I think one day, they won't need to do this. I think everybody will start carrying hair donor cards. So that, you know, just like people carry donor cards for kidneys and hearts and livers, they'll carry hair donor cards. Imagine it, you're next on the list, you're sitting indoors, the phone goes, Mr. Williamson, yes? Great news, there's been a fatal pile-up on the M6. One of them had a hair donor card in his pocket, and you're next. That's fantastic, thank you very much. Only one bit of bad news, what's that? He's ginger, piss off. Nonsense, not having all that. And my wife didn't mind, you know, she loved me before I had the transplant anyway. Having said that, she's let herself go now, you know. Well, you know, she's knocking on a bit now. We were going out the other night and she was stood in front of a full-length mirror. And she said, look at me, she said, I'm fat. She said, I'm going grey. She said, look at me. She said, pay me a compliment. I said, you've got great eyesight, love. What's the difference between a wife and a girlfriend? 4 stone. No, I'm not going to tell those sort of jokes. I'll tell you what I was going to do. Listen, I was going to tell a few estate agent jokes, okay? Just to... How many estate agents in the room, ladies and gentlemen? Why don't... What? Right. Why don't people like you? Why don't people like estate agents? I thought I'd get some nice, harmless jokes off the internet about estate agents. Why don't people... I've met some of the nicest people I've ever met tonight. Why don't people like you? I thought I'd get some nice, harmless jokes off the net about estate agents. This is what I've found, right? What do you get if you cross a pig with an estate agent? Nothing. There are certain things even a pig won't do. Why do they... What's all that about? What's the difference between a single sperm and an estate agent? A single sperm has a 1 in 3 million chance of becoming a decent human being. How'd you get to become an estate agent? Number 1, despise humanity. Number 2, buy a suit. What's all that about? What have people got against you? All I can say is we're amidst excellent company tonight. It's a real privilege to be here. It's time for the raffle. And I think we have our glamorous assistants here. Have you got the bucket, my dear? This young lady, a nice round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We're going around tirelessly collecting the envelopes. Let's get our sound man there. Let's get our sound man to our Mr. DJ there, Pete, to pick out one of our first envelope for our lucky winner. Thank you so much for your generosity in putting in tonight. We know you've already paid for your tickets. And the first envelope out, she'll get the first pick of all the lovely prizes, is Claire Brown. How you come, Claire? Don't be shy. Where is she? Come on, Claire. Hello, Claire. Congratulations. Well done. Let's have a quick picture. Before you click your thing, Claire, could you pull out the next envelope for us? And then you can go and pick what you want. Dean will show you what you can pick from. Dig deep. Thank you very much, my love. The winner of prize number 2, Chris and Nikki Roylance. No one's gone for the Man City shirt yet. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the next winner, and he says, if I win the City Top, please burn it. Mark Buckley, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Buckley. You got funny taste, Mark, that's all I can say. Oh, well done, seriously, well done, brilliant. Oh, Mark, pick us out another one, mate. Or should we get the young lady to do it? Should we get the young lady to do it? Come on. Let's just pick one out for us. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth raffle winner of the evening, the fourth one. Daniel Harrison from Dobson Jones, it's Daniel. Man City shirt still there, mate.
Go on, Jack. Thank you.
Would you like to pick one out for us, sir?
No, not really. Go on,
Go on.
Oh, no.
Table, unlucky for some, but not tonight. Table 13, not unlucky for Martin Fishweek. And the city top's still there, Martin. Martin's going to take the city top, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, they didn't take it. It has gone. Still private estate agents. It's John Heaney.
Tesco's vouchers.
How many prizes have you got left, Dean?
What's your name?
Mark Woodley. Yes, you're on there.
Dean, how many prizes have you got left?
City top.
Martin Hamilton.
You haven't emptied it. 22.
Yeah, you're welcome back on board. The next one, ladies and gentlemen, Will Saxton. Well, Wayne, please, you're certainly picking the next one for us, Wayne.
Is that going to stay on?
The next winner is... It's Carl Gannon! I'm just going to double check there is still a prize left.
Right, now you've got hairdressing voucher for Limes, hairdressing voucher for microdermabrasion, anti-aging treatment at
Which one do you want?
Dr. Beauty.
The choice left is anti-aging treatment. Tesco vouchers gone. The bad news is the Tesco vouchers have gone.
2 more.
We've got some anti-aging cream left, and what was that one? Is that unlucky for some? Table 13 again. Andrew Keir. I'm just going to double check and then triple check there's one left. Anti-aging treatment for Chris Boardman. Yes! Come on now!
Hello. Sorry? Yes. I've written everything down because I'm not fantastically good at public speaking, but I spent all night last night panicking about today. So, you'll have to bear with me. Hopefully it won't be too enduring for you. Honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, this evening I have great pleasure in seeing so many of us meeting face to face. There's lots of people here today that I've seen for the first time. And I would like to firstly congratulate you, as just being here you've contributed to a very worthy cause. One that without people like yourselves would mean that people like me wouldn't be here today. I would also like to say a big thank you to the local Lancashire and Cheshire branch committee who have really helped out and tirelessly worked very, very hard to make sure tonight happened, together with the staff at Sanderson James, who have worked above and beyond the call of duty. As estate agents at the best of times, we've got an uphill struggle to provide how good we are and show people that we want to improve where we're going. And events like tonight show that with the help of the NAA, we can only help improve our image. Tonight is not a night for work, but a night where I would like us to celebrate and relax and enjoy ourselves and have some fun. Later we'll have the auction and hopefully Charles Smales, who I'm very proud to have here tonight, our national president, will auction some prizes and hopefully make the evening a bit more entertaining. Most of you know that Christies is very important to me personally, and sometimes I get asked questions when people say that they have a friend or a parent, etc., who has cancer. They get upset and ask me a lot of questions. Well, my situation was this. Cancer for me was being very sick every day, was waiting for blood tests to see whether I could go home at the weekend, not knowing whether I can have children, and most of you have seen my daughter today, putting up with hospital food, dare I say, that's not very nice. So I lived on kebabs, that's why most of you know I like kebabs. A Christmas Day visit from people like Barry from EastEnders. Sorry, Barry. Your hair and eyebrows falling out. At that time when I was young, Kojak was in. I think I was the youngest Kojak lookalike I knew. But I can also tell you that when you get cancer, and I got it twice and I'm still here, luckily, thank God to people like Dr. Rao, who looked after me for over 25 years now. So I want to say thank you. One thing is very, very important, and that is whether you decide when you get cancer, whether you want to live, and tell the bastard that you made a mistake with me, or you want to let it kill you. And it's obvious what my decision was. I'm not a very good talker, but I just want to say thanks for this evening. Enjoy it. And about 4 o'clock this morning, when I was looking and trying to write speeches and come up with some ideas, I came up with this idea, which is something I've written which I think is really appropriate. It's a poem. I know most of you don't recognise me for poems, but I do try. Here goes. Life can play strange tricks at times. It can also be very cruel. Cruel, that was, by the way. And so, this LNC association has its own plan, with just one golden rule. When we hear of a friend in trouble, we go to his aid, not to be repaid, asking him or her in strict confidence, "How can I help?" I say. Isn't it right, isn't it fair, that with our own blessings, we all should share? And someday, if we need a friend, someone will come along and help us mend our own lives with sorrow and woe. I only say this, what goes around comes around, as we all know. Thank you. That's... Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to pass over now. I'm going to pass over now, I think, back to... sorry.
From the hospital. You can introduce.
I'm going to pass over now, sorry, to Professor Eden from Christies. who's going to say a few words about what his job means. He's been there a long, long time, and we're very also privileged to have him here. Professor Eden?
Dean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm deeply honoured to come and support Dean in what he and all the friends and colleagues are trying to do. Dean is a special guy, somebody we really greatly appreciate, and I know your family do very much. I was quite worried when I was asked to actually say a few words tonight. I didn't want to ruin a good meal and a fun evening. I declined the offer to join Sean in his stand-up comedy. now you know why. And my wife made me promise not to tell any of the jokes I normally tell. I have beside my bed a whole collection of joke books given to me by my young patients, and they're not fit for an audience. You're not mature enough to read those. So for a moment, I'm going to be a little serious. Thanks for arranging this wonderful evening, Dean. Thank you to all the people who've joined with Dean to make it possible. And thank you very much for thinking about young people with cancer and trying to help us in our quest to cure everybody. Now, I think everybody recognises that generally older people, like myself, run a risk of getting cancer as we get older because we've had a lifetime exposure to drugs and toxins. I don't want to ruin your evening, but, you know, smoking, alcohol, sun, sex. Have I ruined everybody's lives so far? Did I forget something? Sorry. Yeah. But what about children? Over the last 30 years, people have recognised that young people, children, get cancer. And with a lot of our colleagues, pioneers actually in Manchester and Liverpool, our predecessors here were really some of the founding members of the organisation. Dr. Rao's been here much longer than I have, and he has actually made a huge contribution, as Dean has mentioned. But we've turned a new leaf as well, because we suddenly realised that teenagers and young adults have been the sort of forgotten tribe, the people who have been missed out in the middle. And when we actually look at the figures, in the Northwest, there are about 120, 130 young people, children, who actually get cancer each year in the first 15 years of life. But there's almost double that number of teenagers and young adults in the 16 to 24 age range. And they haven't been focused upon, and we're now beginning to focus on them. And the questions that we're asking is, who gets cancer in those age range? In children, we're beginning to understand why many of them get cancer, but in the older age range, some of them, most of them actually get cancers that we see in older people. But why do they get it when it's so young? So here's a challenge. That's a research requirement. We're on the case, but we're talking about needing, money to support the research. We also know that the symptom interval, that's the time between you get your first symptom and present, seems to be longer the older you are through childhood into adolescence. Some of that is because young folk think they are immortal. Looking back, it may seem a long time ago, but I felt that when I was young, that I couldn't possibly be ill and unwell. And sometimes young people don't seek help. But much more important, actually, doctors and professionals fail to recognise that young people can get cancer. So there is delay. And we have to actually do some education, health education for the population, health education for the professions. And I hope all of you will recognise that that's what we're going to try and do over the next few years. We're really focusing on that, and we've initiated here in Manchester, under our Institute of Health Sciences, a project to achieve those things. We also have to note that not enough young people get into the treatment trials, which are probably the gold standard of therapy. And we have to approach that. Now, all of these things that I've mentioned actually do require support, research nurses, research fellows, and actually money. But one thing that we've really focused on in recent times is where the environment, where people are treated. Children now would never be treated anywhere but in children's units. But when I started, and Dr. Rao started in the early 70s, we would often find children being treated in adult wards. Well, the same thing applies to teenagers and young adults. And so, in this country, we've now got 7 units dedicated to treating teenagers and young adults. Interestingly, of the 7 dedicated units, 5 of them in the north of England, 2 of them in this region. Manchester, one of the largest, and in Liverpool, a small unit. There's canny, sensible people living in the north of England. Forget about all the clever clots down in the southeast. Where the intelligence is up here, okay? So just an encouraging bit of news about Manchester as well. There are 6 centres being shortlisted for the new biomedical research centres in the UK. Only 1 outside the southeast of England. And where is that? But here in your city, in Manchester. We haven't got the prize yet. But I would like to pay a tribute. Very often we get to be the spokesman. And I don't want to let my team off here. We've got some really good people here sitting in the audience from our team, and I'd like to draw them to attention. We've got Dave. Dave, stand up. Newly appointed. Our ward manager tells a fine joke and we'll do a bit of dancing afterwards. Sitting next to him, Lorraine. Lorraine is our activity leader. She makes a huge difference to our patients. She gets them doing things, rehabilitating them, getting them going. Lorraine, we owe a lot to you. Thank you. There's some others hiding over here. Damien. Damien is newly appointed to be our outreach liaison. He nags me immensely every day to get me working. So, Damien, thank you. And then we have Michelle. Liz. Charlene. All members of our wonderful team. Thank you. You can sit down. And we have Dr. Rao. Now, what can I say about Dr. Rao? Dr. Rao is a great colleague to work with. He and I are a bit like little and large. We always tell our patients we aim to get them somewhere halfway between my height and his height. Our young patients always call Dr. Rao Dr. Wow. And the answer for that is because he really is wow, as I think Dean will testify. Anyway, enough. We should say we can only do all of our work and our research and our caring with the help of our patients and friends and supporters like you. Thanks for the evening, thanks for what you're doing, have a good evening, and don't forget to put money in the buckets. Thank you so much.
There's Professor England and the team from Christies today. Fantastic, well done. Thank you very much for those fine words, sir, and thank you very much, Dean. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the beat goes on. from the auction. We're very privileged tonight, as Dean said earlier, to have the national president of the NAEA here tonight, Charles Smales. And not only is he the national president, he's a very fine auctioneer, and he would now like to do the auction.